euphoric, using the sciences of the attacker, of the academics, of the skeptics, of the scientists. It was really nice to see that there's an entity out there that's the biggest in the world for metaphysics to help people to get the information and say, no, your gifts are valid. Metaphysics is real, using psychology, quantum physics, physics, resonance, atmospherics, all these different things, cymatics, all these different things are valid and true. So then that really attracted me to that, because there's so many people in the world that either have an interest in metaphysics or they do metaphysics, and they're not completely solid on it. They're not really confident on it, or they are, and they get attacked and they kind of question their beliefs, so they're a little bit more timid. And the information that I and others do, my colleagues and a lot of people all over the world, is bring the sciences to them by saying, no, this is accurate, this is real. And the fact that there's an entity such as Dr. Masters of the university out there to help perpetuate this fight, it's really reassuring.
It's reassuring to me on many levels. I mean, as we see more and more problems in the world, as the world has always suffered from religions fighting with each other, and think of all the people who have been killed in the wars, and it's mind-boggling over what the various religions have done to fight over the power that they have. And I think maybe more now than ever with what we're seeing with ISIS. But I mean, here's with the metaphysical field, and all of our alumni and students are, taught very clearly that we embrace all religions, and it's not a matter of the religions, it's the source behind the religions that we learn from in a direct connection. And that is, I have to ask you, because you are very involved in metaphysics, how would you define metaphysics?
Oh, that's a great question. Anytime any researcher, any scientist looks into something, the first step is to define that something, whatever it is. So when people ask me, do you believe in God? I never answer. I always first say, well, what do you mean by God? Because a person could be asking me and I have no idea that they're Christian, so they're looking at me from a Christianity perspective, or someone may be a Satanist or a Muslim or a metaphysician, so first you have to answer what that thing is that you're defining. So metaphysics has gone through, in linguistics, we call it linguistic narrowing and linguistic widening, which adds to the confusion. So originally, in ancient Greece, metaphysics meant simply beyond the physical. That is it, nothing more specific. So before, we had all these sciences of quantum physics, all these different things that show us the physical world and the laws. Everything that you couldn't see was basically lumped under metaphysics. So obviously energy healing, psychic, and all that stuff, but also things that they weren't certain of, such as anomalies and all those different things they didn't know about. So as we get better with our sciences, metaphysics is going through linguistic narrowing, where less and less things are termed as metaphysics. Before, we didn't know about meditation, so that was metaphysics. We didn't know about transcendental meditation, more specifically. We didn't know about NDEs, near-death experiences. Now we know that they are real. We didn't know about spontaneous regression, spontaneous remission, where you can spontaneously heal yourself through mental power or whatever, as medically documented all over the world now. Before, that was lumped as metaphysics, but now it's lumped under neuroscience, physics, and some people say quantum physics. So metaphysics is slowly retracting to a tinier and tinier field. So what we mean by metaphysics in general as a metaphysician is anything that is connecting back to the source, whatever that source is. Whether you call it God or Jesus, whatever name, it doesn't matter. But you're trying to connect back to it, and I focus on the sciences that show those different things. So after you define metaphysics, then you can move forward properly and say, okay, now we know that metaphysics is getting us into a smaller field, because regular sciences take over. I don't like using that word regular science, but just so you can all understand, regular science is taking over and pushing metaphysics out of the window. So pretty soon, everything such as astral travel, psychic powers, remote healing, all that stuff, remote viewing, is going to be taken out of metaphysics and going to be put into, most of them will go under physics, but others will go into neuroscience. So, yeah, it's definitely something you want to be careful of and understand what you're talking about when you answer others.
You know, that's a very interesting perception, and I hadn't really ever considered that, you know. And again, everyone's going to have their own definition as they discover it versus like, well, I have to wonder because, you know, we have radio stations and, you know, we run George Norrie Coast to Coast and, you know,
Right.
I listen and it's like, you know, you get some very interesting people and then you get some people who are just so woo-woo out there and it's so scary.
Yeah.
And just go, oh no, this is like, I hope people don't think that this is what, you know, metaphysics is about because some are just like so out there, you know. And I know Dr. Masters always talked about walk your talk and the way you live your life and the way you can use the information you've got is really the most important thing because if you have the keys to all this information, but you can't put them to work, you have the same problem that happened when people took acid and were taking acid sometimes on a very regular basis. They would have the keys to all this information, but they really couldn't put it to work in their lives. You know, so they were getting almost too much information. You know?
Yeah.
And then they couldn't even digest it. So I mean, there is this interesting thing that's going on with people being very curious about the paranormal, but sometimes getting absorbed in the curiosity and the side effects of that versus really understanding where it helps and serves in the world.
Oh yes, definitely. It's pretty sad, and it's funny that you talk about the you know, the hippie nonsense or whatever you want to call it. I think you said woo woo. You know, it's funny that metaphysics. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes by Arthur Schopenhauer. All truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it's violently opposed. And third, it's accepted as being self-evident. And that's precisely what metaphysics is going through right now. In the beginning, I mean, no one would even entertain you. Like you said, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, metaphysics is just, they would just laugh at you. Now it's being opposed by the religious, you know, right-wing people. I'm not saying I'm right or left-wing. I'm just giving a description that everyone will understand. You know, all these different people, they violently oppose these things. The Wicca movement, the New Age movement, all these different things. But eventually we're going to get into a field, like I said earlier, and like you touched upon, where everything is validated by science, metaphysics, that is. And we're all basically saying to each other, well, yeah, of course it is. Why are you asking? Whereas, you know, 100 years ago, people lost their lives trying to do these things. And now people are talking as if it's self-evident. And, you know, that's really, it's great when it happens, but it's a little upsetting because the people that, like myself, that go through this stuff, it's like, well, it wasn't that easy when we were going through it. You know, we were trying to prove this, we were being attacked. So, and you have all these, these people who are just uneducated, and some of them are just naive. There's nothing wrong with that, but then there's some that are deliberately misguiding others, and you know, they're charlatans, and they're reading one article on quantum physics and saying, oh, now law of attraction proves, or quantum physics proves law of attraction. That's complete nonsense for those of us that understand quantum physics. Quantum physics does prove law of attraction, but not in the way that it's perpetuated in the media and that everyone feels. So all the people, all the life coaches and everyone who's using it for nonsense, I have a huge problem with, and I really try to help educate and show them that no, you're actually doing more damage than you think. And I've had this conversation with the staff at Dr. Masters' university, and they say, yeah, it's pretty sad. Some of the people even go through, some education at this university or that university, wherever, and they still perpetuate the nonsense. And there's a real need for people such as you, people such as Dr. Masters, putting out the truth and getting rid of this hippie nonsense that is attacked, and validly so. So the people that, like you touched upon earlier, the people who are waking up and getting more interested into metaphysics as life goes on and generations come on, there's a reason for that, are more validated and do accept it and see it as something as valid.
Well, in the few minutes that we have left, we only have 5 minutes at times flying by, but can you just kind of let people know some of the most valuable things that have been the gifts you've gotten from the metaphysical path?
I would say the most valuable things that I've gotten from a metaphysical path is basically being able to wipe my mind, being able to reset my mind, being able to see things in a way that, and not only me, but anyone who's done a path either the same or similar to what I've done in metaphysics and science. Wiping your mind and resetting your mind so you can see things that are there that most people can't see. You can make connections. You can see opportunities for yourself. Whatever opportunity it is, it doesn't matter. If it's for a new job, a new life, or to avoid a dark alley, or to avoid, some person who's going to do you harm, whatever it is, you see things that others can't see. You can make the connections between, like you talked about in the intro here, how music is related to an accounting firm, or how atmospherics will help a Fortune 500 company. You can make all these different connections where most people are going throughout their life and they're pigeonholed in their one field, which there's no problem in being an expert in one field. You should be, but not to the point where it pigeonholes you and you can't see anything else. So metaphysics, the genuine metaphysics, metaphysical science, not the nonsense, is something that really shows you the abilities that you have of human potential, being able to, as noted by medical experts and medical documents and cases, being able to do certain things with healing when, some certain ailment comes about. I won't get into that right now. Or being able to, the mothers being able to sense their daughter or their son in trouble at a distance, or animals knowing where their owners are coming home, or whatever it is, you walking down the alley and understanding that someone, may do you harm. All these different things of metaphysics, it really opens you up to being able to see things differently and see how everything is connected. You, me, the rocks, the water, the sidewalk, everything. And there is a valid science behind it. It is not nonsense, and this is coming from someone who's ridiculously scientific. I won't even entertain something if it's got any nonsense to it. So that's what I hope a lot of people pick up on. And if anyone needs to, I can definitely help with, guiding the education and whatever it is, whatever it takes to perpetuate that message, not only to you or to this person or that person, but to everyone across the world who really needs this information, who's really living a life of hurt without it.
Well, of course, people can reach out to you. What's the best way? Is it through your website, or is there a number? How do people reach out to you and get to find out further about what your work is?
Yes, the website is actually designed as a portal. So everything I do is on the internet in research you can get through via the website. It's the main place to start, which is the Dr HermanSJR.com. It's DrHermanSJR.com. And from there you can see all the information, the meetup that I do, the lectures, the interviews, and all that stuff. Also, there's a number that I keep for people who want to contact me. It's 321-30-PSYCH, PSYCH, which is also 77924. But the website's going to be the main way to contact me, and I'm always open to collaboration, anything that can get this information out to others.
Well, I have to say, I'm very impressed by what you're doing, but also your communication skills. Of course, I'm in communications, but a lot of people can't express some of these subjects. They get pretty deep. And I think you do it in a very powerful way. that where people can understand what you're saying, and so it's just so important because I think in a way people such as yourself and many of us are ambassadors for metaphysics, and I certainly think you are one of them.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I consciously worked very hard to take these concepts because the scientific concepts, they are extremely ridiculously complicated.
We're out of time. We're out of time,
okay,
but thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye.